Hello, and welcome to the very first Thundergun Revenge of the Mutants developer commentary. I'm Terra Lauterbach, and I'm the creator of the game. So essentially, Thundergun Revenge of the Mutants is a platformer where you have a gun that you charge up that shoots lightning. Not only is it useful for killing enemies, but it's your primary mode of doing really crazy movement. The effects of the weapon are really close to rocket jumping, and this is the tutorial, and it's designed to teach you that, which was newly added to the Steam update version of the game. Gameplay of the game is arena-style combat. The original prototype for Thundergun was made way back in 2009, and Thundergun Revenge of the Mutants is a follow-up to it, and a commercial version. And it got first released about a year ago on itch.io and GameJolt. Fast forward to now, and it has a updated version specifically for Steam, but the other two versions are going to be getting updated with this stuff as well. At the exact same time, the Steam one's being released, so no one's getting left out. Making the game was basically a solo effort, because I wrote all of the code and did all of the pixel art and design. Everything except the music. The music was actually written by Mike Leroy, and I'll put his information in the description. The enemies that you'll encounter most are going to be these little drones, and they're really kind of, they're really stupid, and they just kind of go at you, but they make really good lightning gun fodder, right? Because you can chain your lightning bolts off of multiple enemies. I think in bullet hell games they're commonly referred to as popcorn, so you could probably consider the drones popcorn enemies. And then there is the fat mutant cat of nine tails, this guy. My brother-in-law actually came up with the idea because he was like, oh, well, why don't you have an enemy that has a whip? Another really cool thing about this game is the duality between normal weather and rainstorms, because during rainstorms you're actually not allowed to use your thunder weapon, and instead you have to use a conventional weapon which isn't as powerful as it, so you get a back and forth in gameplay. And in this case, my weapon for rainstorms is the SMG. The game is pretty straightforward with this, and by most standards it's pretty difficult. Its difficulty mostly arises from the fact that it's a fairly deep game, even though the surface look of it is kind of standard you'd see in a lot of, kind of indie platformers these days. But the real depth of the game comes with the hit streak that you can kind of see below the player at the moment. Maintaining that hit streak is what is going to get you higher scores, because it acts as a multiplier for every time you don't miss. And because of that, this game has a more traditional flair in that, it requires you to score, because a lot of games anymore don't do that, or it's kind of taboo. Or at the very least, it's often done extremely poorly, so it doesn't even affect the experience. But in this case, it's different, and your points are translated into XP, which you can see here. And when you gain levels, you'll be unlocking new perks and costumes and things like that. This is basically what you're going to be doing when you're playing. This is in the 5-minute mode, where you're trying to survive for 5 minutes. Basically, the 5-minute mode is there for people to try to optimize their strategy and see how much they can score within that 5-minute frame. Beginning players will just be trying to get to, the 5-minute mark because it's challenging enough on its own. and more experienced players are going to be refining their tactics and using different perks that kind of play with their game style. The most important thing that you're doing as a player in this game is just really having a tight grasp on your movement. You can kind of see that I'm staying in this particular area and then, you know, kind of kiting this guy, because the jumps themselves can provide you a avenue that you're not going to be getting hit, because you can kind of kite him in this interesting way. Make his path longer, basically. Your hit streak is usually broken when you miss enemies, and the one exception to that rule is the SMG. The SMG, since it's a fairly inaccurate weapon, will only have its streak be broken when you've taken damage. And much like what you just saw there, I lost the streak because I got hit. A recent addition to the game are the Sentinels, which you see right there. Basically, when they're in range, they'll shoot missiles at you. Their challenge is more of like they are a threat if you're not taking care of them at close range. Like you'll see, this is like 3 missiles just launched right in a row at after each other. Which, if you're too close and you're just letting him shoot missiles, you're going to regret it later. There are these times when you're playing the game that you just feel it feels great, because you're just diving and weaving and threading needles between all these different enemies, and your jumps are going great, and what it amounts to is like a zen, almost a zen feeling, where you are fully in control, and I really hope that people get to experience that when they're playing. And you'll of course play until you die, or until you beat 5 minutes. Now, what's really interesting about the scoring, or about the leveling, is that it's not based on an arbitrary experience system. It is the amount of points you score is how much XP you get. So it's really common, if you're fairly good at the game, or you're really grasping it early on, that you can level up like 10 levels, like with like 1,000,000 points. And 1,000,000 point games are pretty good games by standards. Here are some of the early costumes and characters that you can unlock. You can randomize what costumes you have, and that's probably what I'm going to select here. And there's a pretty large combination of them, and it hopefully adds enough personality to the game. And here you can see some of the early on weapons and perks that you'll have unlocked. I've unlocked the Lock Shock, as you see, and all the different weapons have their advantages and disadvantages. The pistol's advantage being that it doesn't have a clip, so you have unlimited ammo and no clip, so you never have to worry about reloading. And I've also selected the Lock Shock, which has no overcharge, but when you do overcharge, you'll add a pip that you can use to fire a huge bolt, so it's basically like you have a saved up overcharge that does heavy damage. You can see that it clicked with that pip there. And what's really great about the game, I think, is that even like with all of the different stuff you can unlock, you can basically really tailor your strategy around a set of weapons. Like, it's really common with a Lock Shock setup that you will be probably using Tesla coils more than you would with the other weapons, because you can use a Tesla coil to charge your overcharge instead of a pip with the time that you spend standing next to a Tesla coil. The other really cool thing that I added in this version compared to the old one is the streak saves, and it says save ready between the hit streak and the multiplier. Basically, it gives you like a free chance to mess up. So if I happen to miss one of these drones with pistol, I would get to maintain my hit streak without losing it because I have a hit save. And those are gained, you know, also by skill. Like, the overarching theme of this game is that it's all on the player. Like, there are ways to do everything in this game, and nothing other than the enemy spawn rate increasing. There's not anything that is going to like get in your way but yourself. And I based a lot of the high-level gameplay on how someone might play Street Fighter, because it is a competitive game, and at a certain point, once you know all of the techniques and moves and different strategies that you can do, frame counts and things like that, it becomes a player-driven, like, how well do I use this character, how well can I fake out my opponent, and this is sort of just a single-player version of that kind of mentality, right? The player is essentially fighting this, you know, this simulation of these enemies coming at you and, you know, trying to get a good score, which sounds a lot simpler than it really is. You know, not only is the movement king, but your positioning and timing is king. Like, you can get stuck down in the bottom areas if you're not careful, and it looks like that's what's happening to me now. I am basically just trapped in this zone, and if you don't have the good positioning, you're going to be, you know, limiting your chances to succeeding. And even though I did a 1,000,000-point game on this, there's, you know, obviously ways I could have done better. So, hopefully this is all pretty good information for you to think about. And there's even higher level play where you know, get 1,000,000 points and you can put it on hard mode after that, essentially with a perk that makes your health less and has enemy rates spawn faster, but you do get rewarded for playing on a harder difficulty, essentially. And this is, again, that example of you just being able to level up based on your skill. So if you happen to have a really good game, you're really rewarded for that. So this probably concludes the first developer commentary. Thank you for watching.